Big Bubbler is pretty prominent right now in Splatoon 3, and the main faces of that weapon are two slow powerhouse weapons that create constant threats of a sharking one-shot kill, the Mid Decavitator and Splat Roller. So today, I'm going to compare the two, going over their different stats to see which one is better in each category, and at the end, you'll get my opinion of which one is better overall. I have more of these comparisons in the works, so if you want to see stuff like Reflex versus Mini or Machine versus Range Blaster in the future, consider subscribing, and let's get started. First off, let's talk about one of the weapon's signature traits, a reliable one-shot hitbox. We're looking at which one is going to be more consistent. The Decavitator is already off to a pretty strong start. Its hitbox lasts for quite a few frames while being really wide. So wide, in fact, that you can literally be standing on the side of someone and still hit them. You don't even have to have them in front of you. Though if they are in front, you still have an incredibly wide area of attack. The range, however, is a little bit limited though, and the beam doesn't exactly do much for verticality. So if someone's even on a small bit of high ground, you're gonna give yourself away trying to approach them. This weapon also has a dash, which, while it slows down your kill a little bit, allows you to shark a bit further away from opponents and use the dash to close the gap, which definitely helps. While Roller's horizontal flick can't exactly hit people on the side of it, it's still quite a large hitbox, and the ability to have a bit of that flexibility vertically makes it a little bit more consistent in my eyes. Let's talk about the weapon's other attacks though. The vertical flick on Roller is incredibly strong for ledge camping, having quite a bit of range and being able to hit through some small walls. It's also pretty good with spacing, especially if you're fighting someone who's slightly weak. You can actually outrange some short-range shooters and threaten them with early damage. However, the Decavitator's charged and uncharged slash do great damage at 40 and 80 each, have pretty wide hitboxes themselves, and a good bit of range, which paired with the weapon's ability to dash to mix up its movement, gives the Decavitator a solid advantage in this category. As for mobility, Roller keeps up a little bit with its curling bomb, giving it some movement options that Decav doesn't have access to. However, the Decavitator's charge slash allows it to have a lot of mix-ups, since opponents have to be constantly cautious of its ability to close the gap, which can make opponents respect you and be a little bit more cautious with where they stand, paired with its mid-range attacks and uncharged swings not being that laggy, and I think the Decavitator takes the category. Up next, ink efficiency. Downtime isn't really a big problem for either of these weapons, but I think it is worth noting because both of them like to poke with their bombs quite a decent bit. Roller does have both a cheaper bomb and less ink-hungry flicks in general though, so it's pretty hard to argue for Decav in this one, which has harsher ink efficiency than even Splatana Stamper. Very easy category win for Roller. The paint is up next. Now, Roller isn't as bad as it seems. If you're up close, particularly with a bubble on a zone or something, the horizontal flick is pretty decent at trying to win a zone fight. But Decavitator's wide slashes and better painting bomb put it in this category pretty easily for me. Next up is a bit more even though, sharking. Both of these weapons are great at sharking, and it's a big part of these weapon plans to play for stealthy kills. So which one is actually better? The Decavitator has a little bit of advantages in my eyes. It has the charge slash combo that's pretty quick, and the dash slash in general gives it a lot of flexibility. However, Roller's horizontal and vertical flick gives it a lot of flexibility, with the vertical flick being able to reach further, and both of them being good at also camping under ledges, giving Roller a lot of sharking positions that Decav can't even play. For example, the bottom left side of Mako is a really good sharking spot for Roller, but Decav can't even hit anything from that position. Due to that, I think that Roller has a big advantage here. Next up is object damage. If either of these weapons get up close to any HP special, they're pretty good at shredding them. However, Decav has a pretty sizable advantage in the fact that it can also do decent object damage at a distance, and the charge slash gives it better mobility when trying to position around stuff like Crab or getting inside a bubble, meaning that Decav has the advantage in this category. Next up is sub-weapon. Curling bomb is perfect for Roller. It's hard to see it with anything else. The constant threat of being able to follow your curling to go in makes them have a consistent threat that the opponents constantly have to keep an eye out, and drastically improves what would otherwise be very limited mobility. The Decavitator's suction bomb is also great for it though. It gives it a lot of flexibility and it can combo off of the damage with its charge slash. While I don't often do this in comparison videos, I'm gonna give this a tie. It's really hard to see either of these weapons with a better sub than what they have right now. Last up though is the special. Both might have bubble, but who actually can use it better? Both of them have a pretty good hitbox for keeping opponents out of the bubble, but Roller's is definitely better. However, Decapitator also has its dash slash, which gives it a better way to set up bubble a little bit further forward. The Roller can take advantage of its commonly run Ninja Squid, as well as Curling Bomb to also try and set them up. This makes this possibly the closest category in the list. However, I would still give it to Roller because I think it is pretty much impossible to deal with a Roller in a bubble, while Decapitator is a little bit more likely to take out depending on the situation. Finally, one more category though, the alternate kits. These don't see too much use in competitive play and are also much more distinct from each other, but I do want to at least mention them, so which one is more likely to see use in the few niche cases the vanilla kits are going to struggle. As for Crack on Roller, the arguments for this have mostly been centered around its beacon, since beacon is quite useful on holds, and it could be useful on maps for Roller like Flounder, where it doesn't get as much value from its Curling Bomb. However, it is very difficult to justify the special weapon, even though it is a little bit cheaper now. Bubble is just much stronger and more synergistic with Roller in practically every way that makes Kraken struggle to find good use cases. As for Charcoal Decapitator, its Splash Wall, while not as useful in neutral as Suction, can allow it to dive in with a little bit more cover and make it harder to take out. It's a lot more synergistic than it might seem. However, the Inkjet has struggled quite a lot with many mid-range and long-range weapons able to take it out. However, when you are fighting one of the rare comps that doesn't have pencil, I think that Inkjet is a lot stronger, which means I could see this weapon seeing a bit more use if you fought something with less pencil, or maybe fight a comp that counters bubble really well, but doesn't have as many options to deal with Inkjet. Charcoal is an option I could see being very good with slight meta shifts, while Crack-On is one that's really struggling to find use on even a few maps, making it an easy win for Decapitator. This ranking ended up being very even, but I don't think there's a clear winner here. To me, while Roller and Decap often get compared and was the most voted matchup for this video, I think that the weapons function a little bit differently. Sure, they're both slow, powerful one-shot options that shark quite a lot with a bubble, but Roller is very specialized. It is made to shark and camp under ledges and constantly threaten approaches. Its toolkit and main weapon strengths are built around that, whereas Decap on the other hand is a lot more flexible. It's okay painting a little bit or throwing bombs a bit or comboing with its mid-range attacks, but because of that, it doesn't get to have as good options for sharking and being up close as Roller does. So it kind of depends on what compositions you're trying to run. If you want something that's a little bit more flexible, able to cover for a few other options and be more versatile throughout a game, I think that Decapitator is the much better option. However, if you have the proper weapons to enable it, such as the classic hide and seek comp we've seen with it, which have typically had 52 Neo Splash and Pencil, providing paint and ways in built around Roller strengths, clearly being built around that weapon specifically. Roller strengths are a lot more pronounced than Decapitator's are, so it's going to be a lot better in those high value situations where it has a good shark or gets a powerful bubble up. If I had to pick one though, I would still go with Decapitator. I think that overall, the weapon's more flexible nature lends it to being used in more different team strategies, which means as the meta develops, Mint is much more likely to slot into a reliable comp, while Rollers are a little bit harder to run. That being said, both of these are top tier weapons in my eyes, so I think whichever one you want to run, you should definitely go for. And honestly, both of these weapons slot in very nicely without overlapping too much. In fact, remember the hide and seek comp I mentioned earlier? Guess what's been subbing in for the 52 and honestly working even better than it? Mint. Yup, we now got these weapons winning tournaments together on the same team. The devs really did do a good job with this. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and thank you for watching.